Bob, was there a point Friday night where even you had to say, I've seen Chad play pretty well, but this is something special?
Yeah, to see it in a game. We see it in practice. We saw it Tuesday in practice this week. We see it in practice. We see him and the receivers and tight ends and backs being such great sync, and being so precise with everything. But to do it against a defense, it's one of the better defenses in FCS football. That was something else.
The downfield passing game wasn't as big an option last year. Is it these receivers that have kind of opened it up a little bit more, or is it a little change in offensive philosophy, or is it just, that's what the defense is giving you a bit more?
I think it's a combination of all those things, and they're all good points. And, we got some receivers that really threaten the field, down, making big plays, making explosive plays. And, we're running the ball. When we're running the ball effectively, it opens those things up. So I do think it's a combination. And Chad's completing a high percentage of those plays.
Chad Kanoff gets the FCS National Player of the Week and every honor imaginable. And I feel like the runner-up to all those awards had to be Jesper Horsted, who ends up simply with the Ivy League honor roll. But really an incredible performance by him. And he has the one-handed grab that makes Sports Center. He has the 66-yard touchdown that really opened that game up. And he has gone from, okay, it looks like we have a number one receiver to this is something special.
Yeah, and Carlson opened some things up for him because it's really hard, to leave Steve open as well or manned up one-on-one coverage. So, we saw this last year with Jesper the last half of the year. He is, a prolific baseball player, and he misses spring practice. And you see him as he's getting his work in, just continues to get better every day. And the little details as he's getting older, he's starting to really do well at those.
And then because of the success of the pass game, especially the last couple of weeks, somebody like Charlie Volker, who rushes for 7 touchdowns in 2 games, almost gets completely bypassed. And then a freshman in Colin Eady, who really seems like he's finding himself. And then Ryan Quigley. I mean, you have put together a run game that is being maybe overshadowed by the play of the pass game, but has really played big roles in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, we want to be balanced on offense, and that's a key. When we're successful, we're doing well in all the different areas. Those guys are running hard. We're finishing our runs. Our receivers are doing a great job getting yards after contact as well. And that's allowing us, I think we had 30 first downs Friday night, to keep the ball in our hands. And, that's been a really successful thing.
How happy were you to see the performance of Chance Melanson, who, we have talked about the freshmen and their growth, but big game, big moment. Sometimes you just need the seniors to take over, and he took over that game.
Yeah, Coach Kluss is doing a great job with those guys, and he's such a good sounding board because the first series, we get a ball thrown out to the flat, have the perfect coverage on that, and it goes through Chance's hands and winds up about a 20-yard completion for Harvard, and that's a big boomerang. Instead of 7 points on the board for us, they're driving the ball, and you got to have a short memory when you play defensive back. And as some coaches, myself, went over to Chance, it's a long game. You're going to get some other opportunities. The interception he had at in the end zone was an outstanding football play, and he also forced a fumble, which was huge to start the second half.
Nobody wants to see their depth tested defensively the way you have, which has been just kind of one injury after the other. But on the flip side, the way your defense has played, especially the last 2 weeks, are you surprised at how well they've held up? And did you know you had this much depth defensively in the preseason?
We work really hard in training camp to build depth, and it's going to take everybody. And our scout teams work incredibly hard. Like, we go to practice and a Tuesday practice, and it is as hard as a game, the way our guys are performing on that. And that only gets those guys better that are on the scout team. So if a need arises, they're ready to go, and they're fighting. I mean, they're fighting their tails off, and I'm happy about that. We got to continue to do that against a team that is really on the rise and been playing well in Cornell.
Yeah, I want to get to the Big Red. It's a team that, I think because of what other teams have done, their last 3 games have been really impressive. They get the win over Harvard. They really take it to Brown last weekend, and they come into this game with the same Ivy mark that you have, that Yale has. Everyone, one back of Columbia, and defensively, they've been the toughest team in the league to get yards against, led by an All-American safety and Nick Gisaldi, but very balanced group all around. I mean, what specifically have they done defensively that has been so hard to deal with?
They've really built up their depth. I mean, they'll play 2 groups of defensive linemen. They are stopping the run with really a small box. They're not adding a lot of safety help, to that box, which they've had to do in the past. In terms of that, they're manning up on the outsides with their defensive backs. This is as good a secondary. They got 3 outstanding seniors in that secondary that we have faced so far, and they fly around the field. This defense is swarming the ball for Cornell, and they're not giving up yards. They're giving up a little over 300 yards a game, and it is. You watch them on video, and they are shutting teams down week in, week out now.
You flip to the Cornell offense, and it really appears like for them, it's been the bugaboo has been turnovers. And when they haven't turned over the ball, they have been balanced. They have a couple of talented backs, including, an All-Ivy one in Chris Walker, a quarterback that can throw it around, receivers that can make plays. The turnovers, especially early in the season, were really what kind of hampered that start.
Yeah, they've really flipped their identity. When I first got here, it was Jeff Matthews, and they threw the ball all over the field. And now they're balanced. And, Walker's an all-Ivy League back. Howard Coles is averaging 10 yards a carry. He has been tremendous in terms of making big plays. And they have a huge offensive line. They come right downhill. They're getting yards with that, controlling the clock. And it's really flipped their season to where they're playing very well offensively. And Banks was a guy last year when they were throwing it all over the field. He was hurting teams with that. Now he's become an efficient passer, and they're not throwing it 5 out of 6 plays, but in that 2 or 3 plays they're throwing it, he's been very efficient getting the ball, including to Chris Walker in space.